Ontario Trade Minister Vic Fedeli joins us now. Thank you for your time on what is sure to be a very busy day.
Yes, it's been a very, very busy but very productive day already.
Late 2024, you discussed the trade situation with the United States as an A, B, and C approach. A being the least severe and C being the most aggressive in terms of the approach with United States President Donald Trump. What letter are we on this day?
Well, I think we're all of the above, because if you're in Europe or Asia, it's like you are all in. You've got now tariffs from 10% to 80% somewhere in there. So the rest of the world, big trouble. They're feeling what Canada was threatened with earlier. If you're here in Ontario, you are feeling the pain. But we have some reprieve on our biggest sector, our auto sector. We have some reprieve for another month again. Here we go again. Now it's May 3rd for parts. So we're all over the map because President Trump is all over the map.
There is a danger of acting too fast, too soon to potentially bring the relations to a fever point. How delicate is this balance?
Very, very fine line. I just left meetings with the Canada's ambassador to the U.S. here in Washington. Now, Kristen Hillman, she is staying on U.S. media, trying to explain a few things very, very diplomatically. Premier Ford has been doing the same thing on U.S. TV. I've been on a lot of the Canadian media. We're trying to keep an even keel, a tone that is just more explanatory to the people. But you're going to start to see the things that we're doing to help families. This morning, for instance, $11 billion is unleashed by the province, $2 billion of WSIB back in the hands of the companies to protect their workers, $9 billion in tax deferrals. So the supports have already started from the province.
Pulling up a quick headline at this hour: Dow falls 800, S&P 500 teeters near bear market. At what point is this a irreversible situation?
Clarke, I've been through 50% reductions in the market a few times in my life. What I've told my staff, because they're all in their 20s, is don't open your, you're not going to retire tomorrow, so don't open your envelope when it comes in on your RSPs, because it'll only upset you. So look, this is self-inflicted by the US. It is reversible. When you bring stability back to the businesses, you'll bring stability back to the markets. But it's terrifying for families. It's terrifying for people. But what I said on some of the media yesterday is all the right business fundamentals are still here in Ontario. Last week, we had Siemens from Germany investing $150 million in a plant in Oakville. We had Mint on Friday hiring 1,100 people in Windsor. This week on Friday, the Premier and I will make a big announcement. All our fundamentals are still here. We're still doing well in Ontario. So, we've got to hang on with both hands through the President Trump's rockiness. But know that we'll come out the other end of this, I honestly believe, even stronger as a province.
From the Zoom application to in real life, Dr. David Tabachnick is here in our studio. Thank you for being here on this day.
My pleasure.
First and foremost, we're talking about the stock market. I know you're not an economist, but it's very much tied to politics. How interrelated is what the United States is doing and the stock market?
Well, again, you don't have to be an economist. You can just watch the news and realize that as these tariffs have been threatened and now put into effect, that the stock market has crashed in many ways. I shouldn't say crashed. That would be perhaps exaggerating, but declined substantially. We've seen over the last number of days, including today, substantial losses of many percentage points around the world, the TSX included. So very much of a concern if you're looking at your retirement fund or just somebody who has invested in stocks in general. So it's quite amazing, actually. You know, earlier today there was a rumor that Donald Trump was going to put a 90-day pause on these tariffs. This was just a rumor, and you could see the markets reacting very quickly, and there was a massive turnaround from negative territory to positive territory. Very quickly, the White House then said, no, that's just a rumor, it's not true, and then the markets went down again. So indeed, anything coming out of that Oval Office or the White House has a substantial effect on the markets.
It's day 16 of the federal election race as party leaders are pitching their policies to form the next government. Is Canada in a good spot right now to not have government in session addressing this head on? We're in an election. Is this a negatively affect on how we position ourselves?
Perhaps. I mean, you could understand that the Prime Minister Carney, is somewhat distracted with the campaign. He is, of course, jumping back and forth into his roles as the leader of the Liberal Party and the Prime Minister. And so he has come back to Ottawa on a number of occasions. He's made statements as Prime Minister and then very quickly took that hat off and put another hat on as running as the leader of the Liberal Party and hopefully, in his mind, the next Prime Minister. So I think it has actually taken away from some decision making. But again, in the Canadian parliamentary system, that's the way it goes. You have this caretaker government, and the question I suppose your viewers can ask themselves, are they taking care?
When you teach your political science students at Nipissing University, right now you're really focused a lot on what's happening day to day. However, a lot of history involved. And when you look back to 1988, Calgary Olympics come to mind, but also a debate. Tell us about what's memorable about '88 debate.
Okay, the 1988 election has so many parallels to what's going on today. That's sometimes dubbed the free trade election. So we were sort of in this big question. Are we going to have a free trade deal with the Americans? This would have been our first free trade deal, a bilateral deal between Canada and the United States. The NAFTA deal would come many years later, and that was really the question on the ballot. So yes or no? On the yes side was Brian Mulroney, the Prime Minister of the time, and he was running on saying, we have to have this free trade deal. The no side was John Turner, the leader of the Liberal Party. And so they went and debated in 1988. And again, I understand your viewers might find these debates a little bit difficult to watch sometimes. This one was incredibly compelling and consequential. And you heard so much of the language we hear today about the future of Canada. John Turner warned Brian Mulroney that if we signed that free trade deal, we would become the 51st state of the United States.
Those words were said?
Those words were said, and again, I encourage, it's on YouTube, go look it up, as I encourage my students to look these sorts of things up. And indeed, that 51st state phrase has come up quite a bit of late. And so, in a way, this election is the reverse, where we're trying to extricate ourselves from all of this free trade deals that we've made, not just with the United States, but with Mexico as well, through what used to be called NAFTA. And we'll just have to see. Free trade has been good for the Canadian economy, broadly speaking. There were some structural changes, and now are we going to go into reverse, go back into the 1980s? Okay, I'm going to have to dust off my clothes from the 1980s if that's the case.
I have an '88 Calgary Olympic jacket my dad wore to carry the torch, so I'm going to be just fine.
I think you can fit into it still, Clarke.
Okay. Dr. David Tabachnick, as we hear, often history tends to repeat itself. Thank you for your time today.
My pleasure.